First of all, to implement JavaScript in your code, you can either use the script tag in your HTML code and write within it, or you can use the mention tag, add the source to it, and write the code within new JS file. Your choice. Variables are your data. There are 3 variable types: var, let, and const. You can use var anytime. With let, you can redeclare the variable and it is only a variable inside the block where it is defined, and with const you can update or redeclare the variable. The data in your variable can be a string, which is a text, a number, or a boolean that stores true or false value. It can also be an array as well as an object, but they will be explained later on. You declare the variable by choosing one of 3 variable types and then naming your variable. Now you have an empty variable, so let's assign a value to it by equal sign and your data. If it's a number, you can simply write down the number. If it's a string, write down the text in quotation marks. If it's a boolean, it's just true or false value. The most basic thing you can do is to display data. You can do it by console log, alert, document to write, and document getElement by ID, ID inner HTML. Console log is mostly used for testing things. Alert are notification boxes that appear on top of your site. Document to write creates a new empty page and writes down the data. In all of these, you simply put the data in the brackets, and the brackets are of course after the methods. Document getElement by ID, ID inner HTML allows you to put data anywhere. Here, first you need to do is set a unique ID for your section where you want to place the text, then you put the ID in brackets, insert an equal sign after the element property, and now your data to display. You can combine both text and data by plus sign. You can even add HTML elements to it as well. Now, if you have a variable with number, you can already make some calculations. Because you have declared variable earlier, now you can just simply write down the name of it and then change the data within it however you want. If you want to add 1 to your number, you can add plus plus to your variable. If you want to subtract 1 from your number, you can add minus minus to your variable. These are the same as your variable plus equals 1, or your variable equals your variable plus 1, and your variable minus equals 1, or your variable equals your variable minus 1. In this, you can also add or subtract other numbers than 1. These are just one specific. If you want your number times anything, you can use your variable asterisk equals 2. It is the same as your variable equals your variable asterisk 2. If you want your number divided by anything, you can use your variable slash equals 2. It is the same as your variable equals your variable slash 2. If is used for conditional statements to perform different actions for different conditions. In this case, comparison operators will be needed. 2 equal signs mean equal, exclamation mark and equal sign mean not equal, greater than sign means greater than sign and equal sign mean greater than or equal, less than sign means less than sign and equal sign mean less than or equal. To create the conditional statement, it's just if, and in brackets you write down the condition with comparison operators. In my case, it is I equal 0. So it just is I a 0. After the statement, add curly brackets, and here you write the code that will be executed if this condition will be true. Now, if the condition will be false and you want to execute something, you can use else statement. You don't need brackets here, and you write the code to execute in curly brackets as well. Else if is used to execute the code based on condition, like in if statement, but only if the previous was false. For example, if my number I will be 0, it will write down 0 as a text on site. If my number I will be 1, it will display 1 in console. If my number I will be something other than 0 and 1, it will write down the number on site. Here in statements, you can also use logical operators such as AND or NOT. This can be useful when combining multiple conditions at once. You put them between conditions. Loops are useful when you want to run the same code over and over again, but with different values each time. The first loop type is for. Its syntax is for and 3 expressions in brackets separated by semicolon. Expression 1 is executed before a loop. Expression 2 is a condition that if it will be false, the loop will go on. And if it's true, the loop is over. You can think it's like if statement, but in opposite. Expression 3 is a code that will be executed every time sequence is over. For example, my I will start at 1 and will end when I won't be lower than 5. I will be displayed in console and I will add one more to it every time sequence is over. Second loop type is while. In brackets, there is a condition that if it will be true, the loop will go on, opposite to expression 2 in for loop. Here you have to add expression 3 yourself, such as I++, or otherwise the loop will be infinite. In both loops, you can use if statement and break to end the loop instantly. It is simply if statement in the loop and in curly brackets just break. So when this condition is met, the loop is over. Continue serves as a skipper. It skips the whole sequence in the loop but doesn't end it. Array contains many values in one place. You can easily create it by declaring the variable and assigning square brackets to it. It's an empty array, but you can fill it with the data you want. You separate each data with comma. So just like that, I have 3 number datas in my array. And the same with string. I have 3 string datas in my array. Now to display the data, you have to write down the array and specific position in square brackets. Array starts from 0. So if you want to display your first data, it is simply your array and in square brackets 0. To display every data, you have to use a loop. I equals 0 because array starts from 0 and set the condition that I is lower than your array dot length. And of course, I++, so it goes through every element. Now in loop, you can just simply display every data by console log array and in square brackets I. But if you want to display it on site, then create a string variable irrelevant and in loop use string plus equals space in quotation marks plus array square brackets I, or string equals string plus array square brackets I plus br. So the data is placed horizontally or vertically, however you want. Strings are your text variables. The most basic operation you can do on string is to add another string to it by plus sign and text next to it. In all of next operations, you simply set the property or method to your string after a dot. You can get your string length by using length property. You can cut your text by slice and substring. First parameter is start position and the second is end position. That is not included. Remember that position starts from 0. Replace allows you to replace specific word with another one, but only the first one. In parameters, the first one is a word in string to be replaced, and the second is the word replacing it. Replace all allows you to replace all the words with another one. Same parameters as a replace method. This makes your string characters either uppercase or lowercase, depending which one you used. These functions ramps your number. First, to the nearest integer, second, up to the integer, and third, down to the integer. As a parameter, just write down your number. Math_pow calculates value of number power to another number. First parameter is your number and the second is the power. Math_sqrt calculates square root of your number in parameter. Math_abs returns absolute value of your number in parameter. Math_min and math_max returns minimum or maximum value you put in parameters. Math_random returns random number between 0 and 1. It has a lot of digits. Function is a block of code that performs a specific task. You can create it by function and your function name, and ending it with brackets. Now you can attach curly brackets to it, and you can write down the function code within them. Then you can call and execute this function outside it by your function name with brackets. Here you can also use return statement and your output next to it to simply receive output of your function. This means you can assign the function value to your variable. In function, in brackets at the beginning, you can put parameters or just data that you would like to get and store inside function. And then in calling the function, you have to put these parameters as well. This means you can put numbers and the function will get them and calculate them however you want. The same goes to strings. Event is a specific activity that needs to happen in order to execute your JavaScript code. You will also need a function inside JavaScript code because the event will activate that function. You can set event to any tag in HTML. You just need to add event equals function in quotation marks. The most common event is onClick, which means if you're going to click an element with this event, it's going to execute a function. Another common events are onChange, that occurs when element is changed, onMouseOver, that occurs when the mouse is over an element, onMouseOut, that occurs when the mouse is away from an element, onKeyDown that occurs when the key is released, and onLoad that occurs when the browser finished loading the page. To get data from site, you will need inputs and an event. To create inputs is simply input tag with type text or number. The most important thing is to set a unique ID for your inputs. You will also have to create a function and put it after the event in input, because after the event occurs, the data from these inputs will be received in this function. For example, onClick my function on a button input. So if you click the button, you will receive data. In function, prepare your variables, and there you can get the data by document getElement by the id.value, and the id is the id from your inputs. Now you can change the data however you want, and you can display it as well. Date objects are created with new date. It's the best option to apply it as a value to variable, since there are many methods that can be used to return many values. To get time, you can combine variable with get hours, get minutes, and get seconds to receive hours, minutes, and seconds. To get date, you can combine variable with get full year, get month, get date, and get day to receive a year, a number of the month, a number of the day in the month, and a number of the week. You can also do calculations on date using set method. Syntax of this method is similar to get. An object is a variable that contains much information. They contain properties and methods like every object, but each one has different values. To create object, you have to declare variable with name and put curly brackets after the equal sign. Now to create properties, you just have to write them down. No quotation marks needed. And after the property, colon, and now your value of the property. Separate every property with a comma. To get value of specific property, simply type your object, dot, and your property. You can also create methods inside them. It's like creating a property, but instead of value, you write down a function. No need to name it. Add brackets and curly brackets and write your method within it. To execute method, use your object, a dot, and a method with brackets. Set interval and set timeout are used to automatically execute functions. In brackets, you have to put two parameters, your function and milliseconds. In set interval, the function will be executed every specific milliseconds, but in set timeout, it will be only executed once after these milliseconds pass by.